Thanks for coming. Welcome to Domus Academy Alumni Reunion. I am Giorgio Lo Spennato, and I am the HR Industry Relation and Placement Director of Domus Academy and NABA. I am in charge of this position from May of last year. So officially, it is my first Domus Academy Alumni Reunion. I am really excited for this. I am really happy to see all of you here in this wonderful and historical location. I know you come from many different countries. I would like to know who is working at the moment in Italy of you? Oh, a big percentage. Okay, interesting. It's not valid for the staff. I think if you are here is probably because you feel to be part of something that is more than a school. I hope that we hope as Domus Academy that we contributed during your academic path to bring out your talent, to be more and more innovative, to be brave. We are proud of all the steps you have done, you will do in your career. You are our representatives. You are our ambassador over all the world. And for this reason, we want to continue to stay in contact with you in the future. If you have a suggestion, advice to make this possible, please let us know. Just a couple of things, a couple of news about Domus Academy. Domus Academy first. Domus Academy has launched a new website. Have you seen it? Yeah, okay. What do you think? Ah, okay, perfect. Okay, yes, I paid you before. Okay. The second one is Domus Academy launched the Metaphysical Club recently. Metaphysical Club is a group of personalities, of famous personalities coming from the world of design, of education, of the culture in general, with names such as Patricio Orchiola, Jefferson Hack, Gilles Clement, Italo Rota, Sudan, Hans Obrist, and so on. The objective of this group is to involve students in lecture, workshop, seminars, and reading session. Taking inspiration from the reading session, we organized messages from the future. That is the topic of this alumni reunion. I want to say once again, thanks to be here, and I want to say thanks to all the people that will talk today. Thanks to Elena Pacenti. You know probably her. She is now leading the department design in another school of our group in California, in San Diego. Thanks to as you can see, we are happy to have you here for this special event.
I came on purpose.
Thanks to Francesca Vargiu, the course leader of the Master of Interior and Living Design and the coordinator of the Metaphysical Club. And a special thanks to the alumni that accepted to talk today, Daphne Coates, Liliana Becerra, and Marco Susani. Last but not least, thanks to Sara Banzatti, the Industry Relation and Career Service Manager, to all her team, Giuseppa, Roberta, Paola. Please stay in contact with Sara and her team and keep on to design your talent. Enjoy the reunion. Thanks.
They say it's my turn, so I'll try to be very short. because wine is downstairs and we can't wait. So I'm pretty excited to be here tonight because, okay, I wasn't a student in Domus, but I've been working at Domus for years, probably forever, so I know most of you. And I have my some exponents of my last class here, the Master of Service Design, and I'm really particularly moved because I have in these representatives of alumni, someone actually I've been working with for years. So basically I joined Domus Academy in 1996, 7, at the research center. So I started working as a researcher. And at that time, Marco Susani, one of the first alumni of Domus Academy, was the director of the research center. So I'm among colleagues, and probably this is my role tonight, to be a little bit a connection between the old generation, our old generation, and the new generation. So, and also in particular for my role, since as Giorgio has mentioned, I moved to San Diego a couple of years ago and I accepted the challenge of opening a kind of a department called Domus Academy in another school, so opening the design programs there. And I can tell you, and this is a little bit the message that we're trying to bring today, that is, what is Domus Academy, the Domus Academy experience and DNA when you build up education at the undergraduate level and with respect to new generation of students and people who are actually acting in a different market, in a different culture, in a different system, educational system. And my feeling is that, well, we can ask them, we have some people, some students from San Diego as well, studying abroad in Milan just this spring. So you can ask them. I think that the way Domus Academy thinks about design and try to transfer design is a kind of a unique thing and still survives, even if the world of design and design education has changed so much. So I think that I feel that we still able to transfer a lot of passion and enthusiasm and an idea of design that has a very important impact on our lives and not just on the life of the products, the environment, the architecture, whatever we build. But I'm not supposed to be a speaker, so I'm going to moderate with Francesca a little bit the debate that will come from our guests. And please, as Francesca will tell you in a second, feel free to intervene, because this is our reunion. This is for all of us. This is a moment in which we meet, and in Milan, in such a beautiful week and place.
Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Thank you all for coming here. Actually, probably you'll be wondering why we started this year Domus Academy Alumni Reunion in this way, so changing a bit also the traditional format. I remember when we started to discuss with Sara about this appointment that we all really care about and we really look for, and we decided to include the Alumni Reunion within this week program of the Domus Academy Metaphysical Club TV that is taking place every night here at Palazzo Clerici. So during this very crowded design week, this year we decided to change a bit the traditional cliché and convention and to invite every night friends, students, designers to come here and to read with us some texts, some of their favorite books, so some lines, sentences that for them really represent something significant for their life, for their identity as designers. And so following this format, we decided also to apply the same for the Domus Academy Alumni Reunion this year. And we think that this can be also an interesting way to remind, to evocate some of the experience some of the memories that all of you have experienced in Domus. Actually, I've been working in Domus for only 4 years, but I'm frank that since the first time I perceived something unique, and in a way I perceived since the beginning all the stories, all the memories, all the great experience that a great team of people, alumni and current students has lived in Domus all years. So I like to start inviting our guests, our alumni, to share with us their favorite books, or actually some lines from the text that they have selected, something that for them really represent part of their experience in Domus. So we can just start with Liliana.
I was saying that I didn't want to be the first, but I guess I will be the first. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Liliana Becerra in Italiano, or Becerra in Spanish. In English, they cannot pronounce my last name, so. Hello. Oh, really? Okay. All right. So, got it. So I studied a master in design, in product design in 1998. So many years ago. Since then, I did a brief study here, brief work here in Milan with Castelli Design, and then I went to work for Nokia in California. So I had a job, very corporate job, for 7 years there, where I did everything from colors, materials, and finishes to design research, strategic design, etc. And then after 7 years, I started my own studio. Right now, I've been at my own studio for 7 years as well. So I'm in the middle of seven. So time to find another 7. When I was coming here, I was thinking what would be an interesting sentence to share. So I selected a sentence from the book Thrive. I don't know if you have read it. It's from Arianna Huffington. Arianna Huffington is actually a person who has been very inspiring in the area of work and life. And I have been in a path myself, which is about finding what is it that really I am good at and what I want to do. So the sentence I have is by Arianna Huffington's book, Thrive, which I recommend you read it. And she says, "We think mistakenly that success is the result of the amount of time we put in at work instead of the quality of time we put in." So this resonated with me a lot because throughout my 7 years of corporate in Nokia, I saw many colleagues that got burned out. They worked so hard, including me, and we traveled so much, and we were on top of 24/7, working constantly. And I saw many colleagues that got burned out, and then some of them haven't even been able to recover from this. And then now that I'm in my own practice, I've been trying to implement some of the idea of the quality of work. And then this is where I connect this with my experience in Domus. So one of the things that has differentiated the work I do is here at Domus, I remember the first day when my generation started, the message from Dante Donegani, who was the head of Domus at that time, the first thing he said, and will resonate with me forever, was, "You don't come here to learn skills. You come here to learn to think." And that was like a big deal. You're paying a lot of money, you're coming here to Italy, you want to get a master's, and they tell you you're not going to learn skills per se, you're going to learn to think. So, in fact, that's what I learned after spending a year here in Domus and learning all about the human aspect of design, basically. It changed completely the way I approach projects. And it taught me that you always have to ask why and go beyond the why up to 7 times why, until you understand what is the connection, what is the human connection between what you're doing and between what the client wants. So one of the distinctions of my work has always been that focus on quality that I was talking about from Arianna Huffington, but also the fact that you always need to be the connector between the world of the industrialized world and what the client wants and what the people need. So the designer is this person who can translate the values of what a person needs or what a humanity of design is to those people that work in large corporations that they just want to sell products or they just want to improve the bottom line. But you, at least from my experience, you're the person who has to come and question even the project brief. So question even the fact that they have decided to go either way or to do a certain specific product. You always, like in my case, go back and ask, why are you doing this? And understand the very reason, the very motivation. And I do a lot of work related to trend research, to strategic design. And I always find out that at the bottom of every inquiry, of all the research I do, is always this human connection. Like ultimately, the empathy of working with people and understanding what is needed, and translating that into specific messages for large corporations or people who doesn't understand human nature, human need. So I think that that reflects back into the quality and also reflects back into that message that you're here to learn to think. And truly, you will. When you go back to your jobs or to your countries, you'll see that you'll think different. And you will think different for the rest of your life. And that's an asset. That's as good as cash. So I want you to keep that in mind.
Well, you have been actually very synthetic, very nice. Have you introduced your thoughts and what you were expecting from Domus, which was completely different maybe at the beginning, and then you have had a very deep, actually this is what you have to do, and anyway, so it was very nice. While in my case, actually, I'm just going to tell a story about a Japanese writer who was admiring a lot Edgar Allan Poe, and his name, he has chosen the name, a pseudonymum, Edogawa, tu ti ricordi? Edogawa Rampo. So it was the Japanese way of saying Edgar Allan Poe, and he kept that name as his name for, while he was using his name, he was writing with that name anyways. And in one of the stories that he wrote actually is very interesting to me, and I feel the same feelings that he wrote in that story, which is, It's a story about a Japanese lady and who is an editor for publishing. And one day she receives a letter from someone, and in that letter that person presents himself saying that I am a woodworker, and I dedicate myself in doing woodworks. I'm a very ugly man, so nobody is talking to me, so that's why I'm much more concentrated on my work. I'm a good worker, and one day I received a commission from a hotel. So I did a beautiful armchair. It was so beautiful that at the end I wanted to be inside of that chair. So I put myself into that chair. And that chair went to the hotel. And while I am in that chair, everybody was sitting on me, and I was feeling them. If that person was a woman, if that person was a man, a soldier, or whoever. So he was feeling inside of the chair, the people, how they were using that chair. And one day that hotel was closed, so that chair was sold to a man, because that man would like to give that chair as a present to a woman. And guess what? That woman is you. And you are sitting on the chair where I am inside. And of course, the man is like, oh, the woman, sorry, is like, oh my goodness. It's like she is reading this letter, and there's a man inside of the chair where he is sitting on. So what she begins to think in a way that how he can feel the armchair himself, and how she can feel the armchair herself in a different way. So there's a kind of relationship between that. And actually in that letter, he continues saying that I am in love with this woman who is you. So he is always like, she's always under shock, and then anyway, she leaves the armchair, and the next day she receives another letter. And he says, hi again, this is me. And, well, actually, the whole story that you were reading on the letter of yesterday was made up. I wrote you this story because I'm very good in writing stories. And I hope you can publish this story with this, way of telling you the story. And this actually impacts me a lot, because this is how, or what I learned from Domus also. Doing design is not only doing the products, but imagining how the people who are using feel via or towards those products, and be in a kind of relationship with you, and how you use it. So again, for me, it is quite important to communicate via products that we design. And it is very important for me to think of the people who are using the lamp that you design, and imagining them when you are touching your products and feeling it completely. So it is not only the product, but it is mostly the feelings that you translate with products. So.
Well, I have a book, actually in many books I like are about science fiction. There is one book in particular that is called Ecotopia from Ernst Kallenbach. It's a very Californian book in the 70s of somebody that was imagining a future that instead than being like about tragedies and the planet being destroyed, was a great combination between new technologies and an attention to the planet and not to damage it. So it was one of the ancestors of what became later all the focus on ecology and so on. The reason why I feel that book was particularly important for my way of seeing design is that me being grown up in the 60s, I did grow up in a period where everybody was dreaming about progress. If you studied history, in your case, I was there in front of the TV. 69 was when the man went on the moon. And if you imagine being a kid in that period, you really feel that your future is about being building a new world, being very optimistic and so on. So I lived that, and then later in my professional life in the 90s, I lived the period where everybody was scared about the progress, because progress from the 60s, 70s, and 80s actually generated tragedies instead than generating rockets that went on the moon. But what I never understood, having been introduced to the idea of that book earlier, I never agreed with this dichotomy, with this friction between is it progress or are we careful about our planet. I always thought, even if the book was relatively naive, I always thought that you can still have an optimism about progress and dreaming about the future, and doing it in a way that doesn't necessarily, not only doesn't destroy our planet, but doesn't destroy human relationships and so on. So that's the story of the book. Then in my professional life, this constant thinking about building something, about building the next generation of products, included building my jobs. And recently I was talking to somebody and I was telling him that I actually did jobs that weren't existing when I was studying to do these jobs, including when I was in Domus Academy. So I studied architecture when industrial design wasn't existing in Milano because it was part of architecture. Then I went on doing in industrial design and studying in Domus Academy. That was, I don't know if they still tell you this, but Domus Academy was born as a non-school. So it was deliberately not a conventional school where they were teaching something. We were together building what industrial design would have been after that. Then I left for a while and I returned to Domus Academy in the Research Center to build a strange thing that was called interaction design. And I was with the group of people that were with me in that period, actually inventing the definition of what interaction design was and why would designers be dealing with these strange things on screen and so on. Then in the last part of my work in Domus Academy, we started inventing something that we call the strategic design. And every time, instead than doing a job, the job was inventing the job to do the job. And that's something that I think was fundamental for me as a mental attitude when I was a student in Domus Academy and went on in my professional life. I hope to continue to reinvent my job also in the next lives, my next professional lives. And that's what I find extremely important, extremely important teaching from my period in Domus, which, by the way, was the very first foundation year. So everybody in Domus Academy didn't have a clue of what Domus Academy would have been. Not only us students, but also the so-called teachers that were all professionals.
So, Daphne, Marco, you definitely didn't introduce yourself. So when did you do the master?
When?
When?
It was 1989. It was actually, as Marco was mentioning, actually, the school was supposed to be a non-school, and it was supposed to be only for 10 years. So I guess it was one of the, I mean, I don't know how it is right now, but I am so lucky to have had this experience with Domus Academy in that period. I'm sure right now it is completely another very nice experience, but at that time we were very few. And I thought it was, as you were saying, we learned how to think, the way of thinking was, of course, the clue for Domus Academy that, enlarging your horizon in the way of thinking it's not easy to learn in other places, and this was the best experience ever I had, as a student, of course.
And for me, if it was the foundation year, academic year 83, 84.
Sorry, I didn't want to underline, just,
Don't ask me how many years it was.
The biography, but that's interesting because actually we have you have chosen some testimony from the foundation to the end of the 90s, and probably here we have alumni from even the most recent years and academic years. But since you have been working after Domus Academy, after that experience, for a decade, at least, 2, not 3. So one of the questions I have is, how do you think, so two very strong points were coming out from your different stories. One is the way, Domus has a known school for learning how to think and how to approach design from a completely different perspective. And the second point is that most often we anticipated professions that weren't there yet, or we suggested how to reinvent professions themselves as designers. That is something that, in my opinion, is still like this, and it will never happen because it is not about doing the same thing, and it is not about a science or a discipline that you learn. And that means for us a big challenge and continual challenge, and somehow also some instability, uncertainty. So how do you think the world of design you have been, navigating in has changed in the last 2 decades with respect to that experience, and what would you suggest to the next generation if you would have to suggest anything, if you had? Always the first.
Well, design, the definition of design is something we could talk for many, many months because it has changed so much. And the good news is that a designer today is not just a person who does beautiful sketches, A designer today is a person who knows about project management, interaction design, design thinking, industrial design, design research, field research. A designer is more a person who is like in the middle of the action, the way I see it. And interestingly, the technology has replaced so much the skills, like, for example, how to draw, and now there is drawing programs, how to print something. There are 3D printings that you can have, printers that you can have on your desk. So technology has replaced a lot of the skill itself. So I think design is very broad today. It's very difficult to define, but it's very interesting and very important.
Actually, few comments about this, because I think when when I was studying and then when I began to work as a designer, design was an elitarian approach. I mean, whatever you were seeing designed was something, I mean, if you have money, you may be able to reach that. So it was a little contradictory and how I was thinking and what I was doing. But luckily, time changed and design became our daily life basis. Every product that we use is almost designed, which I like, much more. So you can find in hypermarkets or wherever you go, design, not only in Alessi shop or not only in B&B shop, but wherever you go, even IKEA is perfect, you know, like everything, not only as, if you see only as a product design or furniture design, whatever. But of course, design is, as you were saying, is like really covering so many areas, which is fantastic as well. And on the other hand, so I'm Turkish, and I have so many experiences in Turkey that a few years ago I was sitting in a restaurant on the sidewalk. So it was the people who were coming and going close by, and there was this street cleaner, and he was collecting the bottles and so. And suddenly he saw that vases for plants, that they were set to divide the restaurant area from the sidewalk. But he was not able to carry his stroller to that area. So he was saying, I don't like the design of these vases. And I turned, I said, I was just going to kiss him, because it was the first time that I heard from a person who has not a direct approach with the design study or like whatever, and he was criticizing, frankly, that vase on the sidewalk that was not done perfectly well because it was so bulky and it was not possible to move it, so he was not working well. So at that moment I said, design is really everywhere, which is very nice. On the other hand, I feel a little bit we are under inflation of the use of the design word too much, and I guess our profession is to elevate that design word with the right services. Long story, anyway.
Well, speaking about terminology, I mean, and I don't know how many of you are here, so probably you speak Italian or you're familiar with the fact that in Italian, design doesn't have an Italian word, but it's called design. And that's what always happened to me through my path from the beginning of school on. Recently, when I think to the definition, the common definition that you can apply to all the ways of doing design, from giving shape to a product to some, let's say, two extremes, just limiting what traditionally is considered as design, giving shape to a product that has already been briefed, being positioned on the market for a company that already exists, so the bare minimum of what a designer could do on one extreme. And on the other side, more and more often, fortunately for us, designers are sitting there building the destiny of an entire company, because you decide which type of products, how to position the brand. There are many designers that are very close to the top, to CEOs, chief design officers, and so on. So the best definition, actually, that covers all of this span, instead than constantly attaching an attribute to design, strategic design, industrial design, and so on, is actually an Italian word that does not have a correspondent in English, that is progettare. So I never tested this, I live in the US, so I never tested this with bilingual people, but I think that it's time to tell English-speaking people that what we in Italian called design for 30 or 50 years actually has a different name, and it's called progettare. Now, if some of you don't speak Italian, progettare does not translate into to project. Actually, to project in English is like to project a light. Progettare comes from to throw ahead, pro and gettare. And it's the perfect definition for something that is not attached to doing something to a thing, but to a way of thinking that is to imagine the life in the future and what's around it. So I think it's time for a manifesto of progettare that nobody will understand because nobody speaks Italian anywhere.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marco. I think that also this challenge is even more interesting and meaningful in a multicultural context, just like the one of Domus Academy, where really each activity, each project, each experience is an opportunity also to teach our students, our international students, what in the Italian design culture progettare means. There's another aspect that also I really appreciate from your stories, the fact and the role of education in shaping the personal identity of each student. And I think that this is still today a great challenge for a school, as something that still today we try to pursue and to achieve. Obviously, it's not easy, especially because Domus collects students literally coming from all over the world, so everybody with his own background, mentality, identity, way of thinking. But I think that nowadays the greater challenge of the education is not to flatten, but to really give the possibility, give the tools, but gives everybody the opportunity to find his own way, but especially find out his own identity, his own marks and language, something that also can really give value to his background, his roots, his past culture. So it's a very challenging combination. From one side, being able to obviously open students' mind and teach them how to think, how to progettare, but on the other side also being able to keep their own soul and keep their culture, keep their own distinguished values. Probably we'd like also to ask someone from our audience to intervene, if you'd like to share something with us just before closing this session.
From the noise, I understand that we are all ready to drink.
Yeah, probably yes. Please come. Arriva lì.
I'm coming. I come from the granny generation of a Domus Academy because I followed the course 83. And help me please. This is the T-shirt that Andrea Branzi gave me because he explained this is not to dress, it's to save. I don't know if my friends, my colleagues saved the T-shirt like me. I want to explain to you something about the experience in Domus Academy. Sorry for my bad English, but I'm very also emotional. I followed the fashion course, and the fashion is from the design to the communication. And we start with the thickness of the shell for the buttons, finish with the fashion show and the catwalk with Gianfranco Ferré, who was my teacher, and Franco Moschino and Valentino, and I worked from these stylists like components stylists, example buttons, jewelry, and I worked many times, but my intentions is to be journalist. I worked for like fashion journalist for many years, and after I worked like a finance journalist, and I teach 10 years fashion communication at the University of Pavia, and now I'm teaching company communications in Pavia, and I want to tell you that Fashion Academy and Domus Academy was an incredible experience, because our courses, design and fashion, are very, very, very connected. And Philip Stark was there, Ettore Sozzas was there, Stefano Giovannoni is one of my best friends, and we cooking many, many evenings at home. And when Gianfranco Ferré asked for an exercise, we have not the money to buy the embroidery that he requests for the work, and we eat only pasta, then pasta into the water and finish for 1 week to buy the embroidery that he requested. This is the level of the experience, and thank you for the reunion.
Can you remind us your name?
My name is Katia Ferri Melzideril.
Ciao. Please, please. Silent, please, please. A little bit, just a few minutes and we can drink. Okay? My name is Paolo Lorini, and I'm a very good friend of Domus since a while. I just teach there, I just teach here since 5 years now, but I'm in touch with the school since maybe the 2000, when I was joining some kind of metaphysical club with Clino Castelli, Antonio Petrillo. It was a very, very nice period because I worked there for a while. I would like to take chance of the presence of this successful alumni that we have here to think a little bit about the future of our students. One of the big questions that come from students to me almost every time, especially when they are about to finish the course, when they are working on the final master project, is what should I do next? Some of them think, okay, maybe I should look for a job in a big company, or maybe should I spend a few years in a design studio, or maybe I should try and open my own consultancy immediately. I want to go solo immediately, or maybe I want to establish my company with good friends of mine, etc., etc. For each of them, the answer could be different. Of course, it's based on their history, on their needs, etc. But I would like to ask to the people here what they did just after Domus. There is this kind of threshold area, because you became famous somehow, because you became successful in what you did. How did you manage those maybe months or years, and why did you do like that, and how those moments gave shape to who you are today? No, not Liliana first?
Another round.
Well, I don't know if my experience will be helpful or not, but I think, let's think in the other way, that we are so lucky to do this profession. I think this is the nicest profession in the world, that we can create our own future. So, I mean, for everybody will be different, the experience. For everybody will be different, the way of applying our thoughts. And so I think it is very particular to reply, I have done this, so you should be doing this and that. And I don't believe in that, I have to say. So I guess just, I mean, really, to listen to your thoughts and then go ahead and create, because we are creative people, and create your own future.
Until yesterday, I would have said, do apprenticeship. It's what I did, and it's what actually we did also in Domus Academy. We were students of a school that didn't have professors, but was inviting professionals. So during the years in Domus Academy as a student and immediately after, I was doing apprenticeship. And that's the classic, it's the stereotype and the archetype of Italian design, like learn a bottega. And I think still there is value in that. I'm saying I would have said this until yesterday because today something is changing and I don't have yet a position. I find that many young people today are way more entrepreneurial than what we were at our time. And so maybe now I'm changing a little bit my mind because we were very influenced by having maestries. And this was great. I find that for my profession, having had even more than one maestro was fantastic. And this would mean go and have apprenticeship in a large studio, learn directly from them and so on. Maybe, and that's just something that I really don't understand, it's up to you to understand it, maybe there is life without maestries and there is a different attitude to build your life more proactively. It's just something that maybe it's the first time I don't grasp what's coming from the future and I'm fine with it.
Well, I have two main things. When I graduated from Domus, I knew I wanted to have a job. I wanted to take a job. So I went to Nokia and did the corporate for 7 years, but that gave me a foundation and that taught me how the market works. You need to know the business, you need to know the nature of the business before you can be independent, I think, because there is so many young entrepreneurs these days that look up to Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. Yes, but they were genius and they were very talented, so they were able to do the dropout and start their own businesses. But you really need to know your things, you know. You really need to be humble and learn again and respect your mentors. Have a mentor every time you do a job. There's always somebody you can look up to, and this is good. So always having a mentor is important. And the last thing is that dream and believe that nothing is impossible. Anything you want to, you can achieve. There's no limit to that. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Anything you want to, you can do it. So go get it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Go get it.
Unless there are someone who has the urgency of really sharing something, we have time downstairs to chill out and drink and mingle. And so if I don't see hands waving, it's a joke. The American group, wow, disgusting, ciao. So, former colleagues. So thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you.
Only a final. I simply would like to thank you again for being here. Thanks a lot to everybody. I kindly ask you, if you didn't give us your business card or registration form, please give us, because maybe we lost some important contacts, as the one of Katia, because we didn't have it, probably in our database, so we really want to stay in contact with you. So thank you very much, and now please join the cocktail downstairs.
Thank you.